everybody. So this is a classification activity where we're going to kind of model what biologists do when they try to classify living things. And the process for biologists is a collaborative one. So they work together to establish some rules for how to put things into different groups. And this can be done with almost anything. In fact, it's kind of a basic human tendency is to group things and clump them and classify them, right? And so we're going to look at how biologists set up a classification system by using something that's not biological. It makes it a little bit more approachable at first. So I'm going to do a demonstration here with the things you see on your screen. You are going to be doing essentially the same thing with shoes, except working together in a group to establish your own classification. So the process has several steps, and we're going to start by coming up with a trait that everything on the page has in common. So, for instance, I wouldn't say that they're all cars because not everything up here is a car, for instance, right? But I might look at them and I might say that everything on here is some kind of vehicle, okay? So I'm going to draw a vertical line, and then next to it, I'm going to write that they are all vehicles. That is terrible. Hold on. Let me write that a little bit better. Let's see if I can write that a little neater. Vehicles. Okay, great. So once I've got that everything on the page is a vehicle, now I need to classify these things in another way. So I'm going to try to sort of divide them into two distinct groups, and you'll see that's the next step here. And this is the next step you'll take. And I'm looking for a trait that separates those two groups. So you won't be able to use this ruler function on your Jamboard, but you'll be able to figure something out with the straight lines and stuff. Okay. So I'm going to divide them into two groups, and I divide it this way. I'm making this little kind of a branching shape. Looks like the uprights of a football in a football end zone. And these two divisions represent the way I'm going to divide these groups up. Now, I get to decide, right? As biologists, you guys, or as the people doing the classifying, you get to decide on how to classify. Now, others could come along and disagree with you and try to get you to change it. But if you come to a consensus, then that's the consensus. And it's the same way for biologists. So I'm going to classify my vehicles into vehicles that are four wheels. How do I want to do that? Do I want to do it that way? No, I'm going to do it as powered externally, and then powered by humans. Okay, so that's how I'm going to clump them at first, right? And so then I can put them into two categories. And so now I'm going to put this one here. That's powered by a human. This one's powered by a human. This one's got a battery pack, so that's powered externally. There, and there. Now, you may disagree. You may not like the way that I classified things, but it doesn't matter. Like, as long as you come to a consensus, this works. Okay, so now I'm going to split off and I'm going to just take one side at a time. And because this one has more things in it, I'm going to start over here. And I'm going to pull these off to the side, and I'm going to think about how will I classify these? If these are all powered externally, what is my next dividing characteristic? Now, I could divide them into two groups, or I can divide them into two groups. I could divide them into groups where, you know, there's only one in one group and the others are all the same, or I can try to kind of more evenly distribute them. This time, though, it feels like there's a pretty natural, separation between these, because you've kind of got the things with 4 wheels and you got the things with 2 wheels. So we're going to make a little divider here. Now notice this is repeating what we did before, and then this is 4 and this is 2. All right, so then obviously these 3 are going to go in this category here, the 4-wheel category, and this thing goes over here with the 2s. Okay, now at the point, if you look at my rules here, the point where you get down to just 1, if only 1 is in a category, draw a line to the top. Okay, so I've only got this one in a category, so I am going to draw a vertical line that puts it into that group, and you'll see in a second why I'm drawing the line to the top. All right, now if I'm going to keep working over here, I got to figure out how to divide these up. And so maybe I would say, you know, truck versus car or something like that, right? And here we have truck and car. Okay, and I'll put my 2 cars over here, and then I'd have to divide them up and so on. Okay. Right, and then once I'm done with that side and I've got everything up at the top, right, so everything's got its own line, I'd go over here and I'd do the same thing in this lower corner right here, right? So I'd have to come up with a way to divide, you know, these up, and I might say, I don't know, how would you divide these? Maybe I would say like powered by 1 foot, powered by 2 feet, right? Right? So right, and then this one is here, and this one is here. And so what we can do with this once it's classified is we can start to say, okay, like what makes things similar and different? What makes this bicycle and this Razor scooter the same? Well, they're both vehicles and they're both powered by humans. So that's something they share in common. What makes them different? Well, one's powered by 1 and the other's powered by 2 feet. You know, or what makes this, you know, Ferrari or whatever this is, Lotus sports car the same as a Razor scooter? Well, they're both vehicles, so they do share some things in common, right? And then we can even take this further. And what if I grabbed something else? Like, what if I had another thing that I brought in here and I said, hey, look, we found this new thing. Where does it fit? And we can say, well, it is a vehicle, right? So it's definitely part of this big category overall. But then how else does it fit? Well, this is powered by humans, right? Your legs stick underneath it and you kick on the ground and you say, well, all right, is it powered by 1 or 2 feet? Well, it's powered by 2 feet. So then would you look at it and would you say this bike and this little push car are the same thing? You might say, well, they're not really the same thing. So we need to figure out another way to divide these up. And now if we were, you know, presented with something totally new, we would have to figure out, well, okay, so we think it's in the same category as a bicycle, but we need a way to divide them up, and we'd have to come up with that. Okay, so that's your task for today, is to take your shoes and divide them up, and you're gonna take a screenshot of your final classification that your group comes up with. And remember, this is a collaborative event, so you need to come up with your descriptions together. You need to start with one trait. You need to label what all of them have in common. And then you need to divide them up, and you need to include labels as you go about what makes them different from each other as you divide the groups up more and more. And at the end, you're going to have a row of your objects all the way across the top with a line going to each one. okay? Because they've each been divided up into their own group. I don't want you to leave any of them in there in a category with another one. You always got to keep trying to figure out how to divide them up. Now you might get stuck, and sometimes you might be like, well, I want to classify these as, I don't know, red and black or something like that. And you might say, well, yeah, but I used red and black over here. Well, then try to find something else, right? Ideally, you're not using the exact same classifications on one side as you are on the other. So here, I probably wouldn't go back to the 4-wheel, 2-wheel thing because I already used it on this side for the things that are powered externally. So maybe I'd need to find something else. Has pedals, has no pedals, or something like that. Okay? All right, good luck.